Welcome, everyone. I'm Mike Brashazade.
And I'm Ashley Ward.
And you're listening to the What Matters podcast, and our mission
to spotlight top RIAs, wealth managers, and investment professionals who are redefining wealth management.
Join us as we dive into their journey, strategies, and insights.
Whether you're an investor or an inspiring pro, this is for you.
Get ready for impactful conversations on the What Matters podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the What Matters podcast. I'm Mike Brashazade, and this is my co-host. And today is our guest, Brett Gilliland. And, Brett, thank you very much for taking the call with us today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Excited to be with you all.
Yeah. And so, Brett, what I'd like to do is delve into a couple questions there that we have. So in addition to your duty as a CEO and Visionary Wealth Advisors, we also show that you have, family fitness, and your own podcast. Talk to us, because I see that you have lots of external activities on top of, hosting your own podcast. Before the call started, you had said that you interviewed lots of athletes. Can you talk to us about that for a second? What got you into that, and how do you get these guests to talk on your podcast with you?
Yeah, I mean, again, thanks for having me. I think it's, the podcast is certainly a passion and it's a hobby, but my day job is the co-founder and CEO of a wealth management firm based out of St. Louis, Missouri. And so that's my day job. That's what I get to do every single day. We get to serve clients in all the communities where we have offices and really around the country. And so that's my passion. That's what we love to do. Our mission is to help people achieve a future greater than their past. And that's what we try to wake up and do every day. And then out of that, helping people achieve a future greater than your past, about six and a half years ago, 370, I think, episodes ago, I started a podcast called The Circuit of Success. And just blessed to get to talk to amazing people with inspiring stories and people that have climbed the ranks in corporate America to their own businesses, to the highest levels of sports and Hall of Fame and Olympic athletes. So it's just been amazing. So, I think once I've been around the podcast game for a while, I've gotten to know people through other people. And so either guests reach out to us. I get to, thankfully run in a good circle with some of these people. And so I get to meet them through our social settings. And then also by reaching out via social media, believe it or not, just reach out, say hi. And then like anybody, I'm sure they go to your social media stuff. They look at it and think, okay, he has a fairly legit podcast. And so they'll be willing to jump on and join me.
Really cool. I was watching this interesting podcast, and these are the podcasters that are kind of in the Hollywood scene, and I think I forget the individual that was saying this. He's one of Joe Rogan's guys, but he was saying he said no, Sandra. He goes Sandra Bullock. He goes, she's old school. He goes, the new faces of Hollywood are the podcasters and the influencers, and that's what people are tuning into now. I mean, of course, there's all the kids that, like, the original podcast is like the kids that used to follow like the Fortnite players, and they'd follow the video gamers, and that's sure. Like, which I never really understood, that the kids that play video games spend more time watching other people play video games, which I didn't understand. But I guess looking at that, it was, they would have podcasts about that. And then it kind of, like, what I saw morphed from there into different sectors. And I know that individuals, especially in like the Austin scene, had really brought the world of podcasts up. But if you could take a minute and tell me, and if you wouldn't mind, who is your most memorable and favorable guest that you've had on your podcast?
Oh gosh. I would say, one, growing up in the Illinois area, we always came to St. Louis as a kid. And so I've been a St. Louis Cardinal baseball fan my whole life. And so I'm looking at his jersey over there, and a picture of me and him when I was probably in 7th grade as a kid, as a fan. And then as an adult interviewing him in our podcast is Ozzie Smith. So if you're from St. Louis, everybody knows who Ozzie Smith is. And if you like baseball, you probably know who Ozzie Smith is, arguably one of the greatest shortstops of all time, in the Hall of Fame. And so that was, great to get to interview him for a little over an hour and then spend another hour with him, just chatting, with your childhood heroes. So that's pretty cool. I've interviewed people that have a guy that was blind and he's hiked Mount Everest. He's
wow.
Kayaked the Grand Canyon. And, you think about all the trials and tribulations that we all have as humans and all the excuses we can give ourselves. And here's a guy that's blind and he's climbing Mount Everest. Like it's amazing. But yeah, then, PGA Tour, I'm a big golfer. So PGA Tour stars to, football players and business owners. And it's just, gosh, it's the company, Lululemon. Most people know what Lululemon is. I interviewed the founder of that. This guy is built one of the biggest brands in America out of Canada. And he talked about how he was basically about 10 days away from the company going bankrupt. You don't think about that. You think about the Lululemon that we all know and maybe love or not love, whatever. But, you don't think about a company not able to hit payroll when you look at the size that it is now, and you just look at that guy's story and what he's built. So, also I could go on and on for days, but probably don't have time to listen to me talk about all the great guests I've had.
Before we delve into our questions there, Ashley and our first guest was a blind guy that is in the RIA space, right? And interestingly enough, when I think it's a story with a lot of people that are visually impaired to that degree, and he had told us that he runs marathons. He was a concert pianist and cello player. And now that he's an adult, he plays in several bands, and he's still a pianist and an avid guitar player. And I said, as soon as we get off this podcast, I'm going to start doing push-ups. Like, I feel so lazy compared to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Ashley, I'll have you delve right into our questions there.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a bit, going into your professional journey. Can you share with our audience a little bit about your journey from your days graduating from Eastern Illinois University to becoming the CEO of Visionary Wealth?
Yeah, it's I started in the investment / insurance space in 2001, and just right out of college, went to Eastern Illinois University, and I knew I wanted to be in this business from a very early age. I had a cousin in the business, and my dad was a banker, my uncle, grandpa was a banker, so that finance background was kind of always there. But I wanted to work with people on the investment on the investment side, and so I did that. I actually started at a previous company and worked there for about 12 and a half years. I was a managing director as my time was coming up there, but decided I really wanted more. I wanted something. I always said the sandbox is this big, and I wanted the sandbox to be this big, huge, and I wasn't able to do that in my previous life, and so kept coming up to this thing when I was researching kind of what my next role was going to be, and I kept coming up to this thing called RIA. I didn't even know what it was, but the more I kept looking into it and diving into it, I said, man, I've really got to make a run at starting my own RIA. And so I called Tim Hammett, my business partner, and thought he would tell me all the reasons why I should stay at our previous firm. And about 4.5 hours later, we got off the phone, and then about 90 or 92 days later, we started an RIA, and that was 10 plus years, or almost 10 years ago. So it's been an unbelievable run, and just blessed to have amazing advisors and amazing clients that we get to work with every single day.
Wow. So you said that was 10 years ago. So 2013.
It'll be 10 years. Yeah. 2014. It'll be 10 years next March.
Wow.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
And so when you got on the phone with your business partner, it's your now business partner, correct?
Correct.
So when you were telling him, we got to go do this on our own, he's like, no, we got to stay and, we got to stay and do this. What was his commitment to the firm? Was, had he been there longer than you, or what do you think that
he didn't tell me to stay. I called him thinking he would say, I need to stay at this firm.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And I also realized that he was unhappy and was ready to go as well. He built an unbelievable wealth management, kind of fee-based practice where we were at. And he was ready to go as well. So it's kind of one of those things that, I needed him and he needed me. And thank God, here we are almost 10 years later, and it's been an unbelievable partnership.
And did you know him prior to that firm?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew him for the last, 12 years leading up to that time. We'd worked in the same firm in different towns, but we knew of each other and respected each other.
Really cool.
Great. And so along the way, you must have encountered some various challenges and opportunities, starting your own firm. What are some of the most valuable lessons you learned as an entrepreneur in the wealth management industry?
Yeah, I think, trust your gut. Your gut is usually right. And when I look back at my career, now this week, I celebrated this past, or 2 Mondays ago, I guess, my 22nd year in the business. And so it's all I've ever done since college. And when I look back on the career, I think, anniversaries for me give me a time to look back and think about what I've learned and kind of reminisce on the career. And so I was able to do that. And I think that what I learned was you just got to trust your gut, and your gut's always right. And rarely, if ever, does it lead you down a path of just, bad things. And so, I assume people listen to these podcasts are good people anyway, or they're probably not listening to the podcast. But trust your gut. I think understand and know what your values are. Anytime you try to bend those things and not follow your values and not follow your vision or your mission, I think you can pretty much feel that it's not the right thing. And so, so that's what I would say. Trust your gut, follow your values, be a good person, do what's right. Don't try to take shortcuts. Don't try to make a decision just to make an extra buck. Play the long game and hire great people, and usually works out.
Those are some great points there. Very insightful. Were there any specific challenges that you could possibly highlight on for our audience that you encountered or faced in those beginning stages of the firm?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I went from my previous firm to, hiring career changers and people out of college to immediately 100% flip to hiring industry people that have been in the industry for, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And so that was unique, so I'm dealing with what was before people that I'm trying to teach them how to do the business and how to make calls and what to say, and to the now people that are super successful in their careers and have, a great client base. That was a different management skill. And I quite frankly enjoy this management side more and leadership side more, is dealing with people that have got a great business. So I think number one, that was a challenge. Number two, I was always in an office setting to where if I was just to go get a drink of water or walk to the water cooler, I could touch everybody in the firm, right? Just say hi, how you doing? How's the family? So now we have 8 office locations around the country. And so having to learn that skill to stay in contact and stay in touch and still see those people, that's a challenge. And again, it's not bad. It's different, right? So it's a whole new leadership kind of deal that I had to learn and be okay with, because I enjoyed, going to lunch with the guys and gals in our office. But now, our Overland Park, Kansas office, I can't just, go to lunch with them real quick, right? We got to schedule it. We got to make time. We got to get down there. And so those were some of the biggest challenges. And then, I think just the recruiting process, it can be, there can be short, quick ones, and then there can be really long ones. I mean, those are challenging sometimes when you see it in your heart and your mind that it's the right move for that person. It's a very emotional decisions for people, right? They always think, gosh, are my clients going to come with me? Or, is the other firm going to get in the way? All these things go through their minds. Even though, that's not true, it's still what happens. And so it's just holding their hand and kind of being there with them and helping them along the way. And then wouldn't you know it, when they all come over, they always say, gosh, I wish I had done this earlier, and it wasn't near as bad as what I thought.
Oh, thank you. And let me ask you this from something that you had said in the difference of individuals that you were hiring. The grassroots type college student, as opposed to the advisor that's already going to come over with a book of business, right? How was the different management styles with those individuals, and what made you want to make the change?
Yeah, I think, it's great to have the folks that are just out of college or maybe a career changer. And I did that for years as a managing director. I think, but it's really hard. That's a difficult way to start in the RIA business. I think it's really, really hard to start out in the RIA business if that's what you're going to do. And so that's why we made the switch. Is I just didn't want that in my career anymore. I was joking, say all this gray hair was, having to teach people how to do that and teach them how to pick up the phone and how to get referrals and do all those things. And now it's managing expectations and their dreams and their goals. And these high-end advisors that we're blessed to work with every day, that are credentialized and been in the business for a long time. I'm learning from them. They're learning from me. And it's a give and take on how to help them maybe get to the next level. And be part of something bigger. That's what I'm finding too, is everybody wants this independent firm and be independent, but we really talk about interdependence. And so we want to work with people that, we need them and they need us. Yeah, they couldn't do what they do with their clients without us. And we couldn't do what we do as a firm without unbelievable advisors, right? So that's really what we look for. And it's a really nice place to be, to work with successful individuals every single day.
Thank you. I like that answer, because, we've experienced ourselves in hiring individuals that were seasoned and hiring individuals in previous organizations, I should say. I think the one problem that I always had was we put a lot of time into individuals that were, that we're teaching, right? And they're not profitable for a minimum of a year, right? Maybe even longer than that, because they got to build a book of business and whatnot. We would see after they get licensed and whatnot that they would take that license, go work for another company. Other companies would be paying them signing bonuses, things like that. Did that ever happen to you, or to help you make your decision into switching gears there?
No, where we were at previously, there wasn't really people that left. They either didn't make it or want to be in the business anymore,
Gotcha.
or they stayed for a long time. And so when we left and started, Visionary Wealth Advisors, it was a pretty big deal, for us, and not many people had seen it before. And so when we started it, but now our belief now is different than a lot of RIAs and a lot of companies. A lot of people want to put you in a non-solicit, non-competes, all these things. And our belief is, look, if you've worked for 30 years building your own business, who am I or who is Tim to say, come in here, bring all of your clients and then sign a non-compete, non-solicit. Like, I personally don't want to do that. So why would somebody else want to do that? So our contract is unique, that people come in, and we believe that if you want to leave our firm tomorrow because of whatever reason, then you should be able to do that. Like, we shouldn't be able to hold you hostage in your life to follow your own dreams if that's the case. And so it doesn't mean you like it. We've had a few people leave over the 10 years, and it doesn't mean you love it. But at the same time, our culture is so strong that we feel like it's going to attract more people, and they're going to stay because the culture is great, the comp is great, the technology is great, all the things about our firm that they love, they're going to stick around, right? But we don't want to hold you hostage here. We want you to be here because you want to be here.
Really cool.
Absolutely.
And in opening up the 8 locations that you guys have, was that individuals that were working at primarily with you guys? Then you said, "Hey, we want to branch out and open up this new branch," or did you recruit individuals that you sparked open a branch right out of the floodgates and made them a manager and to build their own practice kind of underneath your umbrella?
Yeah, it's kind of been both. We've had some people that have already been inside of our firm here in St. Louis, and they're like, "Hey, I want to move to this area because of a family deal. I want to live on some land and do that kind of stuff, or I want to go to my old hometown and build my practice there." And so and then some are just a decision that we've made by recruiting. So it didn't mean we were looking for that area per se, but we got a great referral from an advisor or somebody in the community. And so therefore, when we go through that process, they're great people. We want to open an office there because of the individual, not necessarily because of the location. Now, the location happens to be great as well, right? But it started because of the individual and the introductions that we've had to them.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. So let me ask you one more question on that matter there. So in opening up these locations and having to manage these 8 different locations and have everybody, I guess I'm not going to use the term drink the Kool-Aid. I'll use the term, keeping the core values aligned with all the different locations. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think you just hit it right there, is the values. I don't know if I can. It's not a bad cuss word, but can I say like a kind of a little cuss word? Like a baby cuss word? Okay.
Absolutely.
We call it the no asshole rule. And so when we hire people, we want the no asshole rule to be hit. And what is that rule? Well, can I take you to a local golf course or a restaurant and leave you there and have a shirt that says Visionary Wealth Advisors on it? And I can leave and I can walk away and not be worried about what you're going to say, how you're going to act, what you're going to do, how you're going to treat people, right? If we can pass that test, first of all, then I mean, that works, right? And then I don't necessarily have to worry about you drinking the Kool-Aid, because if we're vision aligned, we're mission aligned, we're values aligned, those 3 things is what really matters. I mentioned earlier, helping people achieve a future greater than your past, right? If that's hence the sticker on the bottom of my microphone here, F greater than P. If you're in line with that, you want to serve your community. You want to serve the school your kids go to. You just want to be a good person. And so we spend a lot of time on that. So then the person in Overland Park, Kansas doesn't have to worry about the guy in Collinsville or the person in Edwardsville or St. Louis or wherever, because we're like-minded, right? It doesn't mean it's like this cult following. It's got to be this way or the highway. It just means you're a good person. You care about your family. You care about your community. You care about obviously servicing your clients and taking care of your clients. And then it just works.
Thank you. I like that answer.
Absolutely. And so leadership, plays a vital role in being a CEO, owner of a firm, and just in the wealth management industry in general. If you had to pinpoint one specific like leadership insight or lesson that you've learned throughout your career that you'd like to pass to other industry leaders, what would that be?
I would say hire great people. So one, yes, the advisors, but two, our team, our back office team, our other leaders in our firm is hire great people that are smarter than you. Anybody listening to this, I'm sure, Ryan, who will be listening to this because of compliance, will laugh right now because I would just say hire people that are really smart and really good at what they do, and then be as involved as you need to be involved with them to let them do the job that they are hired to do. Right. I don't understand law like Ryan understands law. Right. I don't understand certain things that maybe somebody else knows inside of our firm. And I think to be okay with that and to understand that is actually a strength in leaders. I think sometimes leaders can get in the way and think they got to be involved in everything, and they're the magic touch and they're the decision maker, and by God, get out of my way, let me do this. I just don't subscribe to that. And I believe hire great people, get out of their way, have a vision, and then let them do what they do. And, you come up for air, you spend time with them, you talk with them, you're there for them. They know they can come knock on the door. But I think you got to be able to, as a leader, let go of things. And early on, it was hard because when it was just Tim and I, and, we're starting this firm, and you did everything, right? We were the CEO and president, and we were the janitor, and so we were everything. Right. And so as we've learned over a 10-year period, you've got to learn to let go. You can't touch every single part of the company to be successful. You got to let go.
Right. I love that answer because, how do you say it? What shows a lot of leadership skills is when individuals can admit fault. They can admit where I'll use a half curse word, effed up. They can admit where, what they need help with, and where their strengths are and where they're not. And yeah, I think that what we've had to learn there is if somebody thinks that they're perfect and they think that, you try to give them constructive criticism, because I know for myself, it used to be very hard for me to take on constructive criticism. And, now I'm the king of it. For example, my brother watched a podcast, and, he calls me up on Saturday and he goes, I got some podcast pointers for you guys. Hey, I am totally willing to accept them. Right. Because, I got my quirks and my personality quirks, I should say. But can you give it to me on Monday morning just because I want to enjoy my weekend?
Right. Don't ruin my weekend, brother.
Yeah. I said, because I'll sit there and I'll think about it. But let me ask you this here. Going into my next question, the future of wealth management, right? The world of wealth management, obviously constantly evolving. What do you foresee as the future of wealth management, and how do you think it will continue to change and people will adapt to it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, as leaders, I spend a lot of time thinking about that. I truly believe that, yes, financial planning will be financial planning. We will continue. People, in my opinion, people will want advice from a human being. You have all these people that think AI and different things are out there. And yes, they're certainly out there, and there's certainly ways to help, make things more efficient. But I think as people continue to age, they will continue to want to look a human being in the eye. Even if it's, an eye on a video like this, you want to talk to a human being. So I think humans are always going to play a role in it, number one. Number two, I think not only will we have to continue to do wealth management planning, so financial planning, retirement planning, college planning, all the things that we would do for a client to go really, really in depth, work with their attorney, work with their accountant. We do all that stuff, but I think that's just table stakes. And I think that's just what's expected in our firm or in our industry. But in our firm too, I believe long-term, and in this industry, we have to play more of a role of a player. As a coach as well. And so I think there's accountability that needs to happen there. I think there's life planning that needs to happen there. There's so many moving pieces. I know as a father of four, and I've got from a senior in high school down to fourth grade, and, so soon to be college, and I got a new driver in the house yesterday. And so, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in my life. Right. And I think that we as advisors and consultants have to be there for our clients in more ways than just what's your investment advice, right? That's again, table stakes, but what are you doing? How are you raising your family? How are you doing employee reviews for your big company? I mean, all these things that we're doing, I think we have to share that. That's what we do as advisors. It's what I think hopefully they get to listen to our podcast and can learn from people. We got to help people achieve a future greater than their past in more ways than just investment and financial planning.
So you said a new driver. Does that mean sorry about that. Does that mean
not a golf driver, an actual 16-year-old driver in the house?
Okay.
Got his driver's license. Yes.
Oh,
yeah. So I got two
Goodness.
drivers. I got two new taxi cabs in the house now. My almost 18-year-old, now my 16-year-old. So it's helping
Wow.
mom and I.
Nice.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you're married to your wife and you have your 4 boys. Balancing a successful career with family can be really challenging. How do you maintain that balance, between work and personal life?
Yeah, I think it's important to, I always say it's self-management, not time management. All 3 of us on this call right here, we all have 24 hours, and Ashley, you don't get 25 hours and Mike gets 22. We all get 24, right? And
Right.
so I think it's how we manage ourselves. So I'm very, very clear on my family commitments. I do a thing. I have my own journal. No shameless plug here, but I've got a journal that's on achieving a future great in your past. Shocking. Now I've said that 10 times, but on Amazon. But I everything goes in my journals, and it's planning. It's my ideal week, and I can tell you from what time I want to get up to what time I go to bed, and everything in between. And when my kids' soccer games are, it's soccer season in this area right now, so I'm really busy with soccer games every night. And it's for me, I have to plan all my personal stuff on the calendar, and then I get to plan all my work stuff. And I found I'd be way more efficient and very productive in my time at work. But it can also be there and never miss a game for my kids, because that's a priority. I want to be there, and I want to be there for my wife. I want to support her and her endeavors, and always be there and never miss anything.
Really cool. Not to go back to the 16-year-old real quick there.
Yeah.
But what amazed me is, you and I are probably in that same age bracket. When I was salivating for the day that I turned 16 years old, even though there was no car waiting for me, right? I was like, the opportunity to drive was there. Or at least to take your parents' car out after they fall asleep. At least that was there, right? And you could legally drive. I've seen nowadays, I don't know what it is, but these kids will wait till they're 18, 19 years old to drive. So I was really happy to hear that you got a 16-year-old that was motivated enough to get their driver's license.
Well, he got it yesterday morning, and then he was done with soccer practice after school, I think around 5 or 5:15, and we saw him about 9:45 last night. And he goes, Dad, I don't think I got out of the driver's seat for like 4 hours. They drove through, got food, they got ice cream, and picking up buddies, picking up his friends. And so, yeah, it was an awesome day for him.
That's
great.
That's
really cool. Let me to shift into this sector here. What do you think the economic outlook is looking like? I mean, given your expertise, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the economic outlook. What do you believe is in store for the economy? Obviously, we got some higher interest rates here. We have a bullish market pertaining to the stock market. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah. Can I take it a different route and tell
Please.
you that I think, and maybe this isn't a popular thing to say, but I believe that nobody has a crystal ball, right? You can get on any TV station, you can get on any podcast, and everybody can make their predicaments and predictions on what's going to happen. And I certainly think and believe on what I believe is going to happen over time, but again, I don't have a crystal ball, so everything I just say in this podcast could be wrong 6 months from now, right? So what I believe is do what's in your power and control the controllables. We all hear that. And so what I talk to my clients about is there could be high inflation, there could be low inflation. There could be a recession, there could not be a recession, right? I mean, is that correct? Right?
Correct.
Right.
But at the same time, what can we control? Well, I can control the calendar. You can control your emotions. You can control how you react to high inflation, low inflation, recession, no recession. We can control how much money you make. Maybe not. We certainly can control how much money you spend and how much money you save, right? So I want to go peel the onion layer back and go all the way back to the basics. Things that don't sell TV articles, things that are magazine articles, don't sell TV ads, all those things, right? Let's save the right amount of money. Here are your goals. Here are the 10 things you told me you want to be able to accomplish over the next 10, 15, 20 years. Based on all this, based on up and down markets, high inflation, low inflation, here's the likelihood of you getting there. Here's what you're going to be able to do to make it happen. And I just personally believe that people need to focus on that, focus on the things that they need to do, and try to get rid of the noise that's out there on what's going to happen and who can predict the market and the timing of the market. We just don't subscribe to that. And it's not a philosophy. So not dodging your question. It's just something I think that people need to really focus on is go back to the basics. It's like, people talk about 6-minute abs. Well, there's no such thing as 6-minute abs. It's watch what you eat, stay active, and exercise. But that doesn't sell Men's Health magazines, right?
Right.
I thought you said 6-minute ads, and then I was like, oh, 6-minute abs. That's so true.
6-minute abs. Yeah. So I mean, again, I'm not selling 6-minute abs for investments. I'm selling, let's get back to the basics, save the right amount of money, control your spending, watch your expenses, control your taxes, control your fees, work with the person you know and trust that's got your back. And then that's going to help you long-term.
Thank you.
I like that. Yeah. So beyond your role as CEO, you're actively involved in your community and various philanthropic endeavors. Could you share with our audience a little bit more about your community involvement in the organization that you support? I saw Swing for Hope. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about that?
Would love to. Thanks for asking. So Swing for Hope is a foundation my wife and I started together back in 2007. Her mom, grandma, and 2 of her aunts were diagnosed with breast cancer in, I think, about a 7-month period. Unfortunately, one of the aunts passed away, but her mom and grandma and her aunt beat it. Her grandma is now since deceased, but they beat the cancer. And her mom is one of the strongest people I've ever met. She's been battling it, since 2003. Here we are in 2023. I think I'll mess the number up, but she's on like her 60th or 70th type of medicine. And she just keeps rocking, and it's just a huge inspiration. And so in 2007, my wife and I said, look, we got to give back. And being the golfer that I am, swing for, F-O-R-E, like you yell at a golf ball. Like if Mike hits his golf ball at somebody, he may yell for, right? So Swing for Hope. And so that's why we started it, was to give back. And we started that charity. And then 6 weeks later, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. Fast forward a year later, her dad was diagnosed with cancer. And then fast forward to this year, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And, so all 4 of our parents have it, aunts and uncles, friends. I just had a good friend lost his wife last week to brain cancer. And so, the mission continues day in and day out. And again, not to keep saying it, but to help people achieve a future greater than your past. It's not just in investments. It's in their lives when they've been hit by the word cancer. And so we help people in our community, everyday people that we do go grocery shopping with. We help them pay their bills or get to and from chemo, or pay their power bill, put a new filtration system in their house so their kid can come home and breathe clean air and be at home instead of a hospital. And so those are the things that we do, and the communities get behind us, and it's amazing what has been able to be accomplished just through people.
Yeah, I feel that, both my parents had cancer before I was even 20 years old, right? And so I totally understand and can resonate with that. I appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just one of the many boards. I sat on, I don't know, probably 4 boards. So very involved with those as well. And again, I just, we're blessed and just thankful to give time and energy and resources to great causes.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I can't imagine like how rewarding of an experience that is to really see how you're making an impact.
Yeah.
Well,
I would say too, not to interrupt, but I think community is one of the values of our firm. And so I think that's not just me. I mean, if you look at Tim to everybody else in our firm, they're all highly involved in charities, whether it's their own charity or, the charities that they're involved with in their communities. It's just another one of those things. It's part of our culture and part of our DNA and what makes us who we are.
Absolutely. Love that. So Brett, your insights, both professional and personal, are very, very valuable. Before we wrap up here, is there any advice or key takeaways from your journey and your experiences in life that you'd like to share with our listeners? Maybe any final words of wisdoms for possibly inspiring wealth managers, podcast hosts, individuals looking to achieve financial, freedom, or even just get involved with their community? What's your final words for our audience?
That's a lot.
I know. I kind of threw a lot at you there.
Yeah, I would say, I call it Focus 90. It's, again, part of the journal that I look at, and I write down these goals every day. I take a snapshot of every 90 days, and I look at what are my goals in those 90 days. And then I spend the first 90 minutes of every day, whether it's before the kids get up or after they go to school, I spend the first 90 minutes attacking those things. And so I think have clarity around where you're at and then where you're going. For new financial advisors that may be listening to this, is don't give up. I mean, this business is hard. It's freaking hard. But don't give up, because I can tell you that you're going to be overworked and underpaid for a long time. But it works if you trust it and you do what they tell you to do and go get the clients and go do good work for people. Stick with it. But have a focus of where you're going. I've been very clear. I could, go down the hall here and show you business plan after business plan after business plan of things I've written down that I've wanted to achieve in my life. And that doesn't just mean financial success. That means, from community stuff to, things with my kids and vacations. And I'm a big believer in write it down, and amazing things will happen if you do the work to get there.
Absolutely.
Right. And so write it down, and then write it down every day. And so still here I am at 45 years old, 22 years in the business. And I still write down the same goals every day for 90 days. And usually those things can happen. You're not perfect. Nobody hits every goal, but gosh, you give it hell trying, and you get really close to most of them, if not all of them. And so that's what I would say. Write it down, have a goal, have a lot of clarity in where you're going, and then just take action every single day to get there, and you'll be amazed at what happens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you so much for joining us on the What Matters podcast. It's truly been a pleasure, exploring both your professional and personal experiences. We really appreciate you sharing them with our audience today. And we really look forward to the continued impact that you make on the world. That concludes another episode of the What Matters podcast. We hope everyone enjoyed today's conversation with Brett, the CEO of Visionary Wealth Advisors. Be sure to check out Brett's podcast, The Circuit of Success, and for more insights and inspiration. And Brett, where can everyone check that out?
You can go to circuitofsuccess.com to find it, or you can go on really any major podcast channel would have it there. And then our website, visionarywealthadvisors.com. And then find us on social media and in our website. But thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And to our audience, stay tuned for more exciting interviews with individuals who are making a meaningful impact on the world. Until next time, remember, it's not just about wealth, it's about what matters. Thank you, everyone.